All right, guys, we are live. It is just after 9 a.m. Wednesday, June 18th, guys. We'll give everybody a moment to filter in. In the meantime, as you are joining and getting ready for the live, be sure to share it with a friend, tag a friend across the Ohio Valley for the severe weather potential today, and be sure to click on that link there in the title to sign up for the Clarity platform, where we will be providing more detailed updates and timing on severe weather impacts as we go throughout the day today. That is the best way to get down to the minute details for your precise location. We will give a general idea of what we expect to happen as we go throughout the day, the main threats to watch, the impacts to watch, and where to expect it as we go throughout this live stream. Hope you all are doing well. Lauren says your intro music always gets me so pumped for the forecast. We appreciate that. Definitely like to make it interesting, keep things upbeat. We had some music initially, kind of the built-in music in the streaming software that was just kind of depressing, and we didn't like that at first. So found some that was meant to, energize people a little bit more. So appreciate that compliment. But good morning, everybody. Here's a look kind of to start at the current radar. We actually had a strong storm move just south of the Indy area this morning. I know that there were damage reports in Beech Grove of trees down, and that wasn't really that strong of a storm. It was severe warned up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, but I want to highlight that the fact that this one storm caused so much damage with trees down. The grounds are very saturated right now. I would expect storms this evening to be much more severe, more widespread with the severe potential. And because of the saturated grounds, it's going to increase the risk of down trees and down power lines as these storms sweep through. And so that is something to keep in mind, is that we may have a lower threshold for wind damage with trees and power lines today because of how saturated the ground is. And so I do want to keep that in mind. I do think that wind will be the biggest threat, but there will be the potential for large hail and a couple of tornadoes as well, which we'll dive into as we go throughout this forecast. Here's a look at the update that we sent out to clients about 4 hours ago. Clarity Pro clients on the platform. We also talked about it in our video. It's available to all subscribers on the Clarity platform. The orange area, that is where severe weather is likely. And we expanded that risk back down to the south because of the wind threat. I still think that if there's an area that might have a better chance for a couple of tornadoes, it will be kind of along and north of the I-70 corridor. But I do think anywhere in that orange area is at play for widespread strong to severe storms. As a line moves through, it's not likely going to be a scattered type of severe weather threat. There's likely going to be a more defined line of storms, and that will produce a damaging wind threat. 60 to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible. And again, given the saturated grounds, certainly possible to get wind damage out of that, which brings me to my next point, which is our sponsor for these streams for our severe weather lives, which is 811 Dig. Certainly, with this type of a setup and with the potential for wind damage, as you head out tomorrow or this evening and assess damage, you need to dig anything up to fix any damages, whether it be a fence or power lines or whatever. Obviously, don't go near power lines, but be sure to call that free 811 dig number to be sure that you are digging safely after these storms. So with that in mind, I am going to show the simulated radar. We'll go back to the Clarity platform. I want to show you what it looks like in terms of the future radar. Go back here. Future radar as we go throughout the day today. So you can see these storms continuing to push off to the east as we work into the rest of the morning hours and into the early afternoon. Could see a couple of pop-up storms. I think this may be a little bit overdone here, but a couple of pop-up storms possible earlier this afternoon. Here's the main line. And so here's a look at 4 o'clock. We'll go back here and we'll kind of go step by step. So this is 2 o'clock. So 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. We'll have storms approaching southwest Indiana, eastern Illinois at the Evansville area at this time. One of the key things that I note right off the bat, guys, note the bowing nature here. We have a bowing nature of these storms, of this line. Anytime that you see that, it indicates a damaging wind threat. And the low level jet and the wind energy in the atmosphere is, I would say, abnormally strong for this time of the year. A lot of times, this time of the year, you don't have a lot of wind energy. That is not the case today. We have plenty of it as we go throughout the afternoon. This is by about 2:30. You can see storms along the Illinois-Indiana border. These storms will be moving relatively quickly as we work towards about 3 o'clock. You can see here storms moving through western Indiana. By 3:30, we're looking at areas from Bedford to Bloomington, Crawfordsville, near Lebanon at this point. And then for the Indy metro area, if we zoom this back out, Lafayette at 3:30-ish as well. Then you're looking at these storms arriving at about 4 p.m. for the Indy metro area. Now, I would say give or take an hour or so. Data varies a little bit in terms of the precise timing. I'm going to say a general kind of 3 to 6 p.m. time frame from west to east across the state of Indiana. In terms of the severe weather threat, it will be a little bit earlier the further west you go across parts of Illinois. But this is roughly 4 p.m. And again, I think that these storms can really pack a punch. There's going to be plenty of energy. There's going to be plenty of wind energy in the atmosphere. So, plenty of instability, if you will, heat. It's going to be very humid today. The atmosphere from AM storms should have plenty of time to recover. And so, I don't really see any reason that these storms won't produce a lot of heavy rain, frequent lightning, damaging wind gusts, and I also think perhaps some instances of large hail and a couple of tornadoes as well. And so, I think that the environment is ripe today for the potential for severe weather. Is it the highest in severe weather threat that we've ever seen? No. Not saying we're dealing with a tornado outbreak, but I do think that these storms can certainly pack a punch as they move through. Here's by 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. We're working into Western Ohio at this point. These will continue to be pretty strong as they move across Western Ohio. So if you're, I would say, along and west of Columbus, you're probably dealing with severe weather, but they do start to weaken as we work further into the evening hours and as they push through central and eastern Ohio, guys. And so, again, it's probably middle of the afternoon into the early evening where this threat is going to be the highest across the area. Now, I want to get into the analysis a little bit more to kind of highlight maybe where the wind threat is going to be, where the strongest tornado threat could potentially be. And this is a look. This is a look, guys, at the low-level jet. This is 4 p.m. this evening. So this afternoon, right as these storms are arriving. The low-level jet, guys, 62 knots, 64 knots in some spots, guys. That's over 70 miles per hour. That would indicate the higher end potential with these storms could potentially, in an isolated fashion, exceed 70 miles per hour. The other big thing that I notice, this is widespread. Turn on our drawing tool here. This is a widespread, strong, low-level jet in here, which means that I think anywhere along the line has the potential to see severe weather. And so, again, I don't necessarily think that this is an isolated instance of severe weather. I think that the wind threat could be relatively widespread across the area. In that orange area that we highlighted earlier, I'll show it again here in a moment as these storms move through. Now, in terms of the tornado threat, this is the latest run. I'm going to look at it. Actually, I haven't even seen this latest run yet. If we take a look here, this latest run's not as aggressive. I'm going to go back to our more favored run a little bit earlier. This is the 6Z run. So this was about 5 hours ago that this one came out. And while I think it may be a little bit aggressive, I do think that it highlights the area. If there's an area where there could be a couple of tornadoes, I think it's in here. This is where your highest threat is. Again, it's not the highest in tornado threat that we've ever seen, but there's enough spin in the atmosphere. There's plenty of moisture in the atmosphere that if you're in this area especially, I would not be shocked to see a couple of tornadoes. Lafayette, Kokomo, Indy, maybe even northern Johnson County. It's not out of the question, but this would kind of be the corridor, guys, that I would expect perhaps to see a couple of tornadoes. Not ruling it out down here, but I think this is kind of your most likely area to see that. And one of the reasons for that, if we go to the simulated radar and go back to our newest run here, is that's a little bit closer to the low. Your low is right here, guys. And historically, kind of along the warm front, and closer to the low is where you tend to see a couple of tornadoes, where you tend to get the spin to be a little bit higher in the atmosphere. And so it's just the nature of the setup. With the low back here, it will tend to favor areas along and north of the I 70 corridor. A fairly strong low for this time of the year, I would say right now, guys. And so that's kind of a look at it. I'm going to show the wind gust potential real quick. Take a look at that. Look at the wind gusts behind the system, actually, that the model is trying to see out in Illinois. Maybe a little bit aggressive there, but certainly indicating the strength of the wind energy of this storm. And you can see right here, click around, that the model is certainly seeing severe level wind gusts as the storms move through right at about 4 p.m. And again, you can kind of click along and you can see that they're pretty strong all the way from Kokomo all the way down to the Ohio River with this line as it moves through this evening. So some very gusty winds, and it will probably stay gusty as well. Again, I think this might be a little bit aggressive, but signal is that even after the storms pass, the wind energy is strong enough that it's probably going to stay pretty gusty even after the storms pass this evening. With that being said, guys, I'm going to look in and I will answer a couple of questions, and then we'll do a little bit of a review before we sign off here. So let me look around. Let me see if we have any good questions here that I can answer. Yeah, I don't expect this to be a derecho. I don't know if it goes far enough. In terms of it, it's not quite the same setup of a traditional derecho. At the very least, it's more of a traditional squall line, something that you see more so in the springtime, really. Let's see here. There's a huge music festival in Rothbury, Michigan, and many festival goers are arriving. Can you please include in your broadcast areas a little bit further north from Indiana as well? Sure, I can do that. So if we take a look here, I'll show the simulated radar. You're going to be a little bit closer to the low up here. And so you can see storms working into southern Michigan, 5 o'clock. Definitely some gusty winds. I do think the worst of the severe weather is going to be south of you, but strong storms, gusty winds, some heavy rain, anytime between 5 and probably 8 o'clock will be likely across southern Michigan. And if we turn on and we look at the severe weather threat, you're in the threat. You know, I think that again, maybe the biggest severe weather threat is just to your south, but you're in the orange area for the risk of some widespread damaging winds. I think the locally higher, stronger wind gusts could be closer to the I-70 corridor, but anywhere across southwestern Michigan going to be at play for severe weather as we work through this evening. Church event 6 to 8 p.m. outside with kids. It depends on where you're at exactly. If we go back over here to the simulated radar, you know, if you're in Western Ohio, definitely going to be some problems. I think that if you're in central Indiana, you know, activity becoming a little bit more scattered further into the evening that we go. All right. What size hail? I don't think that we're dealing with massive hail with this. You know, I think an inch to an inch and a half in diameter is probably pretty reasonable with this system. The atmosphere is very, very saturated. We don't have a good dry layer of air, which will enhance the melting a little bit of some of the hailstones. All right. Do you expect a watch box later today? I do. It could be a tornado watch because of the spin ups along the line. Not impossible, but I think at the very least, a severe thunderstorm watch will be needed as we work into this afternoon. Traveling from Crawfordsville to Terre Haute this evening, when to be weather aware. Well, here's a look at the simulated radar. You know, I think for Terre Haute, you could be looking as early as about 2 p.m. Eastern, as early as that. Definitely between 2 to 4, I would say, would kind of be the worst of it. I think that strongest storms moving out by 5:30 or so further off to the east. So a 2 to 4, 2 to 5 p.m. for Terre Haute to Crawfordsville would be the time frame. Yes, we will do a live later this afternoon. Probably we'll do a live before the arrival of storms early this afternoon. And then as storms fire off, we will be live, especially if any tornado warnings are issued with this line. But I think given the damaging wind potential, we'll probably be live either way. If we go live, you all know, or you all know that we will go live if we see anything that is super threatening in the area. Central Indiana, 3 to 6 p.m. 7 p.m. Fishers football scrimmage. I do think that the worst of it is out by that time, but you can see there could be a couple of strong storms that are more scattered on the backside of this system that we may need to monitor. Strong tornadoes or spin ups. Um, I I can't rule out a strong tornado, but I think spin ups probably will be more predominant, especially if you're south of I 70. Spin ups probably more so south of I 70. All right, guys. All right, so let me just do a quick little review. I'm getting a lot of questions in terms of specific locations, so I'll go through the sim radar one more time. You can see the time here on the bottom of the screen. This is 12:30 Eastern time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. This is by the time we work towards 2 p.m. Eastern time, kind of approaching southwest Indiana. By the time we work into 2:30, 3 o'clock, we're exiting off of the Illinois-Indiana border. 3:30 here, guys, Bloomington, Lafayette, Crawfordsville, Jasper, Bedford at this point by about 3:30. Again, I would give some room for error here, 30, give or take 30 minutes to 60 minutes or so with this, which is why I'm kind of saying general 3 to 6 p.m. time frame for central Indiana will be probably an hour to an hour and a half before that if you're west, hour to an hour and a half after that if you're further to the east. But roughly here, rough estimate 4 p.m. Eastern, 4:30. Here's a look at 5 p.m., 5:30, Richmond, Fort Wayne, up towards or down towards, I should say, Cincinnati, and then out into Western Ohio by this time. Zooming things out, you can see, Grand Rapids, Lansing up to the north, some strong to severe storms through about 7 o'clock in this area. And then we could deal with some scattered storms behind with some very, very gusty winds still as well, even after the storms pass. So that's kind of a general look at time frame, guys. And again, here's a look at the overall severe weather threat map. If you're in the orange area, you're at risk for widespread strong to severe storms. Damaging winds probably going to be the biggest threat, 60 to 70 plus miles per hour. But a couple of tornadoes and some large hail as well will also be possible. And again, we do think that the tornado threat is the biggest along and north of the I-70 corridor, Lafayette, Kokomo, Carmel, Fishers, Lebanon, in that general region in there will be the biggest area to watch for a couple of tornadoes. Guys, that's all that I have for this morning. If you want more specific details, more detailed timing breakdown for your precise location, I'm going to go over to the Clarity platform and we will take a look here at let me go switch over to our Insight. You can see we'll be updating this throughout the day. Simulated radar graphics, timing graphics, insights. This is on the Clarity Pro version. We'll have Nowcast that will be issued here that you'll get pushed directly to your device for precise timing. We had that out this morning for those storms that move through. Jonathan Kipper, one of our meteorologists, put that out. He absolutely nailed the timing for it. And so would highly encourage you to check out the Clarity package. You can scan that QR code in the top left, Clarity Home, $99 a year to get push notifications from our meteorologists, our video updates, the future radar, really everything you need to get precise details for your location. So we appreciate all your support. Again, be sure to like, share this video, tag a friend, let them know of the threat this evening. We'll be a little bit earlier in the day, middle of the afternoon again, compared to what we've had the last couple of severe weather events. So people getting out of work, if there's any outdoor activities this afternoon, the outdoor events certainly could be impacted by it. We want to make sure that everybody stays safe and prepared. So, guys, I appreciate you all tuning in, and we will be back with an update probably early this afternoon once we have some new model data in and as storms are beginning to arrive. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, and we will be in touch.